You don't speak tonight. Carter didn't lower his voice. He didn't wait for privacy. He wanted witnesses. You smile. You stand where I put you. And when people ask what you do, you say nothing. Because without my name, you don't exist. We were under a chandelier the size of a small car. Midtown Manhattan. Black tie. Donors. Cameras everywhere. The kind of room where reputations are decided in 10 seconds and lies are called elegance. Carter's hand tightened at my back like I was furniture he'd paid for. This is my room, he went on, still smiling for the crowd. My money. My access. You're just the decoration I bring so people assume I'm stable. He leaned closer, breath warm with whiskey and entitlement. You'd last 3 days without my name, he said. Maybe 2. Then you'd be right back where I found you, waiting for someone to tell you where to stand. I blinked once, slow. Controlled. He lifted his champagne glass and turned slightly so the couple beside us could hear. You know what's funny, he said, still smiling. People think she's sophisticated. She can't even book a car service without calling my assistant. If I didn't arrange her life for her, she'd wander around this city like a lost tourist. The woman laughed into her hand. Her husband snorted. I felt heat crawl up my neck. Not embarrassment. Something colder. Carter kept going, soft and vicious. She'd be helpless without me. No home. No friends in the right rooms. No invitations. No access. She'd be invisible. He tilted his head like he couldn't remember. What were you before me, Serena? He asked, louder. Some cute little office job. Copy machine. Coffee runs. Something that doesn't matter. He looked at me, finally, and his eyes were flat. Don't get that face. You're welcome. I pulled you out of normal life. You should be grateful. You'd last 3 days without my name. A few people turned, sensing entertainment. Carter loved that. He loved witnesses. I smiled. Small, polite. The smile I'd worn for 4 years. Then he added, softly for me alone. If you ever try to leave, I'll make you look unstable, he murmured. I'll make you look unsafe. And everyone in this room will believe me, because they already want to. My fingers tightened around my clutch. I didn't speak. Not yet. Because if I spoke, he'd turn it into a scene and call me dramatic. And I wasn't going to give him that. I was going to give him something else. I leaned in as if I was about to apologize. And I whispered, okay. His mouth twitched. He thought that meant he'd won. Then, right there in the middle of the ballroom, I slid my wedding ring off. I didn't fling it. I didn't cry. I placed it gently into his palm and closed his fingers around it like I was returning borrowed property. Carter's smile faltered. Just for a second. What are you doing? He hissed. I looked past him at the crowd, at the phones, at the bright eyes that lived for someone else's humiliation. Then I met his gaze and said, loud enough for the nearest circle to hear, you're right. I don't survive on your name. He relaxed, his face brightened, already preparing to tell the story later. And I finished, so I'm giving it back. His expression flickered. I turned and walked away from him in a room full of witnesses. If you want stories where the person doing the humiliating ends up choking on it, hit like and subscribe. And if you've ever been spoken to like you were lucky to be tolerated, drop a comment. I read them. I didn't go to the ladies' room. I didn't go outside for air. I went straight through the lobby like I belonged there. Because I did. I'd been trained to belong in rooms like this. Not by Carter. By survival. At the concierge desk, I opened my clutch and took out my keys. Penthouse, Range Rover, safe deposit key, a small black fob Carter used for the building's private elevator. I lined them up on the marble like a neat little exhibit. The concierge's smile flickered. Ma'am? I leaned in and said quietly, if anyone asks, I left willingly. And you have cameras on this desk. Save the footage. His eyes widened. He started to speak. My phone buzzed. Once. Twice. 3 times in a row. I glanced at the screen. Private banker. Carter's chief operating officer. And then a number I knew by heart but had never saved. Landon Voss. Carter's father. The man who didn't walk into rooms. Rooms rearranged themselves. I didn't answer. I stepped outside into the cold air and hailed a cab. The driver looked at my dress, my hair, my bare hand. Where to? I gave him an address in Manhattan that felt unfamiliar on my tongue. My name, I said. Not his. I checked into a hotel under the name Serena Hale. My maiden name didn't feel like armor. It felt like air. The woman behind the desk didn't blink. She saw a woman in an expensive gown and assumed she belonged. That was the first mistake people always made about me. They assumed I belonged because of Carter. I belonged because I learned how to belong. I rode the elevator up alone and walked into a suite that was smaller than the penthouse, but it was mine for the night. My card, my signature, my money. I set my clutch on the table, took off my heels, and stood by the window. From here, I could see our building, the glass tower, the bright crown of it. The penthouse lights were on. Carter would be pacing by now, calling his assistant, calling security, calling his father. Not the police, because what would he say? My wife walked away from me in public and I threatened to ruin her. My phone buzzed again. Then again. I let it. The first voicemail came through while I was silencing it. Serena, Carter said, voice controlled like he was talking to a subordinate, not his wife. Stop performing. Come back downstairs. We'll fix this in the car. The second voicemail was sharper. You can't just leave. You're attached to things you don't understand. I listened to that one twice. Not because it hurt, because it told me exactly what he was afraid of. I opened my laptop and logged into my own accounts. Not the ones Carter allowed me to see, mine. The ones he dismissed as a cute distraction. I didn't gamble. I didn't chase hype. I read. I tracked. I waited. I learned to stop mistaking loud men for smart men. I turned the first 10,000 Carter tossed at me like a dog treat into something I never had to beg for. I had enough to leave. I had enough to fight. And I had enough to make him regret teaching me what power sounds like when it's quiet. My phone lit up again. Landon Voss. This time I answered. I didn't say hello. Landon didn't waste time. What did you do? It wasn't a question. It was ownership. I looked at the city and said, I left. A pause, then a low, furious exhale. You don't leave this family, Landon said. Do you understand what you're attached to? I laughed once, quietly. That's funny, I said. Carter told me I was attached to him like a bracelet. Another pause. He recalculated. Then Landon's tone shifted into something smoother. Serena, he said, like he'd ever used my name with warmth. Come home. Let's not embarrass anyone. We can fix this. I thought about the ballroom, about Carter's promise, and I said no. Landon's voice dropped. You're making a mistake. I let silence stretch. Then I said, save your warnings. If anything happens to me, the story you've built will collapse on your son's head. His breathing changed. Is that a threat? It's a contingency, I said, and I hung up. My hands were steady. That surprised me. 4 years ago, I would have shaken. I would have begged. I would have apologized for being treated badly. Because Carter didn't marry me for love. He married me for compliance. Pretty enough for photos, polished enough for rooms, quiet enough to manage. And I had been the kind of woman who smiled through discomfort because discomfort was the price of entry. Carter saw that and mistook it for stupidity. He didn't understand the difference between quiet and powerless. I sat on the edge of the bed and let myself remember the morning something finally split. It wasn't dramatic. It was administrative. A Tuesday. Ordinary. The kind of day Carter forgot I existed. I'd gone into his study looking for insurance documents. Something boring. Something that shouldn't have mattered. His printer was running. He wasn't home. A stack of pages sat in the tray, still warm. At first I thought it was market research. Then I saw my name. Behavioral summary. That was the heading. Not my handwriting. Not my words. A paragraph describing me as emotionally reactive and prone to impulsive decisions when challenged. I stared. The next page was worse. A drafted letter to a physician. Not a request, an instruction. The third page had a list. private investigator, preferred evaluator, recommended facility. Then, clipped to the back with a binder clip like it was nothing, was a notarized document, postnuptial amendment, dated last month. Clauses about abandonment. Clauses about forfeiting assets if I left without cause. Language about preventative evaluation if I displayed instability. And a signature. My signature. It looked like mine. It wasn't mine. It was good. Too good. Like someone had practiced. I sat down in Carter's chair and read it twice. Not because I didn't understand. Because I did. He wasn't just cruel. He was preparing my erasure like a project plan. I didn't confront him. Confrontation is what men like Carter want. It gives them a stage and you become the villain. So I did what he never expected. I became careful. I started building an exit without making a sound. I set up accounts he didn't know existed. I stored copies of what mattered. I stopped reacting. And I watched. Back in the hotel, I opened a secure folder and looked at the photos I'd already taken over the past month. Not everything. Just enough to remind myself I wasn't imagining it. My phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. One line. Do not go back to the tower tonight. If you want the truth, meet me in Stamford tomorrow. 2 p.m. Bring nothing you didn't buy yourself. My pulse ticked up once. I recognized that number. Not because we talked. Because I'd seen it on seating charts and calendar holds and vendor confirmations. Evelyn Marsh. Landon Voss's executive assistant. The woman who carried the whole family's life in her hands and was treated like she didn't exist. Furniture hears everything. I stared at the text for 10 seconds. Then I typed back. Okay. That night, I slept for 3 hours. Not because I was afraid, because my mind wouldn't stop calculating. At dawn, I showered, washed off the gala perfume Carter liked, and put on plain clothes. No labels, no performance. I grabbed my laptop, my purse, and a small envelope of cash. I left the hotel and walked into the city like I wasn't running, because I wasn't. I was moving. At 2 p.m. the next day, I sat in a quiet tea shop in Stamford, Connecticut. Not fancy, not trendy, just calm. The kind of place Carter would have mocked because it didn't come with status. Evelyn arrived in a cardigan and sensible shoes, hair pulled back. Face tired in a way that didn't come from age. She sat across from me and didn't smile. You used your maiden name, she said. I blinked. How do you know that? Evelyn's eyes stayed sharp. Because Landon's been roaring into phones since midnight, she said. And because the hotel you chose doesn't take calls unless someone knows what to ask. I didn't speak. Evelyn slid one envelope across the table. Not a decade archive. Not a theatrical gimmick. Just an envelope. Inside were 3 things. A business card. A single-page printed email chain. And a small metal key. This key opens a safety deposit box in Stamford, she said. It's not mine. It's one I've been told to maintain for emergencies. Usually they're emergencies. Today it's yours. My throat tightened. What's in it? Evelyn's voice stayed flat. A duplicate notary log, a list of the doctors they lean on, and copies of the drafts you were never supposed to see. I swallowed. Why are you giving me this? Evelyn looked at me fully. Because I watched them do this to another woman last year, she said. And she didn't get to walk out in public. She got dragged back in private. A chill slid through me. Evelyn tapped the printed email chain. And because I'm tired of watching men like Landon raise boys like Carter and call it family. She leaned in slightly. And because there's a dinner coming, she added. And it's not a dinner. My stomach dropped. Carter had texted that morning. Can we talk tonight? Civil. Just logistics. It had sounded like a concession. It was a trap. Evelyn watched my face shift. You see it now, she said. I see it, I whispered. They're going to stage you, Evelyn said. Witnesses, sympathy, a story about your instability. My nails dug into my palm. What do I do? Evelyn's eyes hardened. You stop giving them reactions, she said. You start collecting language, exact phrases, dates, names. She pushed the card toward me. Call Nadine Park, she said. Stamford, not Manhattan. Carter's reach doesn't stretch the same way here. I left that tea shop with my heart pounding and my spine straight. The key felt heavy in my bag. Not because it was metal, because it was leverage. In the car, I didn't open the box. Not yet. First, I called the lawyer. Nadine Park answered on the second ring. Park Law. My name is Serena Hale, I said. I need counsel. Today. A pause. Are you safe? Yes, I said. For now. Another pause. How much power does your husband have? I looked at the highway, the gray sky, the ordinary world that didn't care about Carter's name. Enough, I said. Nadine exhaled once. Come now, she said. Bring only what you own. Nadine's office was in a plain building above a tax preparer. No marble, no intimidation. Just diplomas and clean desks. Nadine was in her 40s, calm voice, eyes that didn't flinch. She didn't look impressed by my gown or my last name. That made me trust her immediately. I gave her the short version, public humiliation, forged paperwork, threats, the word unstable being positioned like a weapon. Nadine listened without interrupting. When I finished, she held out her hand. Give me the key and the printouts. I hesitated. Nadine's voice stayed even. If you're going to do this, she said, you do it clean, you do it legal, and you do it like a woman who plans to win. I placed them in her hand. She skimmed the email chain. Her face didn't change much, but her eyes got colder. Oh, she said quietly. I swallowed. What? Nadine looked at me. They're building a narrative, she said. Not a marriage. She opened her drawer and slid one paper toward me. This is how you stop them, she said. You preserve credibility and you create a record. Everything else follows. I nodded once. Then Nadine asked, tell me about the dinner. I told her. Nadine's expression sharpened. They want you to break, she said. They want you to argue, cry, raise your voice. They want one clip they can replay for a doctor. I nodded. Nadine reached into her drawer and handed me a small device. Not sleek. Not sentimental. Functional. You're going, she said. My stomach dropped. I am. Yes, she said. Because you're going to let them talk. You're going to give them the stage they asked for. And you're going to walk out with a confession. That night I returned to Manhattan. Not to the penthouse. To the hotel. I changed into a simple dress and sat at the desk. My phone buzzed. Carter. I didn't answer. He texted. Don't make this ugly. Ugly. As if humiliating me in public wasn't ugly. As if forging my signature wasn't ugly. As if threatening to ruin me wasn't ugly. I typed back one word. Okay. I could practically feel his relief. At 8 p.m., a black car arrived. Not a cab. Not an Uber. A driver Carter paid to make me feel contained. I got in anyway, because I was going to a dinner where they planned to break me. And I was going to leave with their fingerprints all over the weapon. The Westchester estate was warm and bright and expensive enough to look like safety. That's how they sold the lie. A house meant stability. A man meant protection. A marriage meant belonging. I walked in and saw the table set for 12 partners, spouses, 2 men with the same haircut and the same laugh. And at the head of the room, Landon Voss. He stood when he saw me, not out of respect, out of dominance. Serena, he said, kissing the air near my cheek like touching me would contaminate him. You look calmer, he added, like my well-being was a problem being managed. Carter stood by the fireplace with a drink. He didn't greet me. He didn't apologize. He looked at me like a misbehaving asset that had returned to the portfolio. Evelyn moved silently through the room with a tray. She didn't look at me, but when she set my glass down, her fingertips brushed my wrist once. A signal. I sat where they placed me, between Carter's partner and a woman who smiled too brightly. The conversation started like theater. How was the gala? How was the hotel? Wasn't it all a misunderstanding? Then, between salad and fish, Carter stood. He tapped his glass. I felt the room shift. This was the performance. the moment they planned. Funny story, Carter said, grinning, about how Serena and I met. People turned toward him, ready to laugh. She was hungry, he said. Ambitious. Easy to impress. I didn't even have to promise her love. I promised her access. A few laughs. Carter's partner added, and she's been grateful ever since. Carter smiled like a hero. Landon watched like a proud teacher. Carter raised his glass. Some women want equality, he said. Serena wanted a shortcut, and I gave her one. The men laughed. The women smiled like they weren't next. Landon's voice slid in, smooth as a knife. We all have our roles, he said. Some people build. Some people decorate. Serena has always been excellent at staying in her lane. My stomach turned, but my face didn't change, because the device Nadine gave me was eating every syllable. Carter leaned forward, enjoying himself. And the best part, he said casual, is she doesn't know what she signs. She never asks. She just trusts. It's adorable. A beat of silence. Then Landon chuckled. Handled, he said. Evelyn's hand shook once as she cleared a plate. Then she steadied it. Carter's partner raised his glass. To Carter, he said, the man who can turn a pretty face into a useful asset. They clinked. Carter looked at me and murmured, See. This is what behaving looks like. I looked back, and I said softly, I'm behaving. He smirked, satisfied, because he didn't know what I meant. I excused myself. Powder room, I said. No one stopped me. They didn't see me as dangerous. That was their second mistake. In the hallway, I passed Landon's study. The door was ajar. A printer running. A folder on the desk with a label. Crisis plan. And another. Behavioral narrative. My name on it. I didn't touch anything. I didn't steal anything. I took 2 photos. Then I closed the door exactly as it had been. When I returned, Carter was still smiling, still performing, still confessing. I left that estate with my spine straight and my purse heavy with proof. In the car back to Manhattan, I didn't cry. I called Nadine. I got it, I said. Nadine's voice stayed calm. Did they use the language? Unstable, unsafe, impulsive? Yes. Did they admit you sign without understanding? Yes. Nadine exhaled. Good, she said. Now we move. The next week, I didn't win with drama. I won with paper. Nadine filed what she needed to file. Quietly, correctly, not a war declaration, a legal posture. And then we waited for them to react, because narcissists always react when they realize a woman isn't scared anymore. Carter didn't freeze my cards immediately. He wanted leverage. He wanted to watch me. He thought he was still training me. So I used what he gave me. Small transfers, normal for our world, a retainer, a consulting invoice, a cash withdrawal that looked like a renovation deposit. Nothing that screamed panic. Everything that screamed privilege. Meanwhile, Carter started unraveling. Not in public. In private. He called more. Texted more. His voice shifted from commanding to pleading to furious. One night he showed up at my hotel. I didn't open the door. He spoke through the wood like I was a child hiding from punishment. Open the door, he snapped. Stop playing games. I didn't move. He laughed once, sharp. You think you're strong, he said. You're not strong. You're disoriented. You're having a little episode. Fix it. He always said fix it when he meant control. I can make one call, he said. I can have you evaluated. You want to see how fast your little freedom disappears. My stomach clenched. Then I remembered the dinner. The word handled, the phrase adorable. And I said, loud enough for the door camera to capture it, threatening me, doesn't make you right. It makes you evidence. Silence. Then Carter's tone flipped into softness. Because that's what they do when they suspect an audience. Serena, he said, gentle, I'm worried about you. I almost laughed. He'd never been worried when I cried alone. He was worried now because he couldn't control the narrative. I stayed quiet. After a minute, he left, not quietly. He hit the wall once, hard, then walked away like nothing happened. 2 days later, I got a message from the tired woman at the dinner. A new number. One line. I heard what he said. I'm sorry. If you want proof, I have it too. I stared, then typed back. Stamford. Tomorrow. 1 p.m. Bring nothing you didn't buy yourself. Her name was Claire Benton. She walked into Nadine's office holding a folder like it was a life raft. I'm not crazy, she said immediately. I looked at her shaking hands. I know, I said. Claire swallowed. They do this, she whispered. They make you feel emotional. Then they write it down like it's pathology. Nadine nodded once. Claire slid the folder across. It's emails, she said. Not gossip. Plans. I opened it and saw a thread. Landon. Carter. A doctor. A pie. Words like narrative and containment and evaluation. Then one line that made my blood go cold. If she becomes inconvenient, we position her as a risk. Minimal collateral. Contain quickly. Minimal collateral. That's what you say about a lawsuit, not a person. If you're still here, comment where you're watching from. Just city and state. Or drop I'm still here. Because the next part is where their whole little world starts eating itself. Because once you pull one thread in a woven lie, everything unravels. The first public crack wasn't handcuffs. It was money. Carter's firm announced an emergency partner meeting. Not a dinner. Not a toast. A closed-door meeting at the office. Evelyn texted one line. They're meeting at 9. Landon's coming in person. That means fear. At 9:15, my phone lit up with alerts. Not my accounts, the firm's, industry feeds, rumor channels, the kind of whispers rich men pretend they don't read. Compliance inquiry, client suspensions, a major institutional investor pulling capital pending review. By noon, Carter's name wasn't being praised. It was being avoided. At 2 p.m., Nadine received a call. Not from the FBI, from an enforcement attorney. We have an existing file, the woman said. We are not starting from zero. We need corroboration and chain of custody. Nadine asked one question. Are you requesting cooperation or issuing process? The answer made my stomach flip. Both, the attorney said. And your client should not go back to the tower. That night, Landon called. I answered. He tried warmth first. Serena, he said, I heard you've been stressed. I said nothing. You're a good girl, he continued. You got overwhelmed. It happens. Come home. We'll handle it privately. Handle it. I said, I'm not coming home. Landon's tone tightened. Carter is your home. I felt something sharpen inside my chest. No, I said. Carter is a performance. Silence. Then Landon's voice dropped. Be careful. I smiled. I am, I said. That's why I'm not alone anymore. And I hung up. 2 mornings later, the tower didn't light up like a crown. It lit up like a crime scene. Carter's office was searched. Not a raid with sirens. Worse. Quiet people in plain clothes carrying boxes while everyone watched and pretended not to. The firm's board suspended Carter pending investigation. That suspension hit the business press before lunch. Carter called me 20 times. I didn't answer. At 5 p.m., he finally texted something honest. You did this. I stared at the screen and felt nothing, because he'd done it first. He just expected me to stay small. At 7 a.m. the next day, the banks opened. At 7:03, my email filled with automated alerts, not a dramatic theft. A lawful reallocation of marital liquid assets, triggered by the filings Nadine had already set in motion. Marriage is paperwork, and paperwork doesn't care about your ego. By 7:15, Carter was calling like a man drowning. His voicemails shifted from rage to panic. Then his lawyer called. I didn't answer. Nadine did. She called me afterward. He's calling it theft, she said. It isn't. It's marital property. He can contest it, but he'll be doing it while regulators crawl through his firm. That evening, I chose a public place on purpose. A hotel bar in Manhattan. Not the Gala Hotel. A quieter one. I sat with a glass of champagne I paid for myself. The bartender was a woman with gray streaks and eyes that had seen too many men like Carter. At 8 p.m., Carter walked in. He looked like a ghost in an expensive suit, wrinkled, hollow, unshaven. He came too close. "You ruined me," he hissed. I looked at him calmly, and I said no. "I stopped protecting you." His mouth opened. Then he tried to laugh, like laughter could put him back in control. "You don't understand," he snapped. "My father's dealing with serious exposure. The firm is collapsing. People are turning." I took a sip. "You told me I'd disappear without your name," I said. "It's been days and you can't stand up without calling a lawyer." Carter's jaw tightened. He leaned in, voice low. "I'll tell everyone you're unstable," he said. "I'll tell them you've been having episodes." I nodded once. "Say it out loud," I said. "Right here." He blinked. "What?" "Say it," I repeated. "Tell everyone your wife is unstable because she left you." People turned. Carter froze. Because in public he couldn't do it. In public, he needed to be the good man. He reached for my wrist. I pulled back. The bartender stepped forward immediately. "Sir," she said. "Back up." Carter puffed up. "Do you know who I am?" The bartender didn't flinch. "You're someone grabbing the woman who told you to stop," she replied. "Back up." Security arrived. They guided Carter away while he tried to talk over them. As he left, he spat one last line. "You're nothing." I watched him go, and I felt something settle, because his words didn't land anymore. 2 days later, the handcuffs finally happened. Not first, last. Landon Voss was walked out of his estate in front of cameras, not furious, shocked, because he'd spent his whole life believing consequences were for other people. Agents carried boxes. The headlines used words like wire fraud and obstruction. Evelyn texted one single symbol, a period. That was her version of celebration. A week after that, I sat in court. Civil court. Divorce. Orders. Protection. Carter sat beside his attorney, wearing the suit from our wedding like it was armor. It didn't fit anymore. His lawyer tried one last play. "Your Honor, Mrs. Voss benefited from the lifestyle. She enjoyed the proceeds. She is attempting to profit from allegations she participated in." Nadine rose slowly. She didn't look at Carter. She looked at the judge. "Your Honor," Nadine said, "I'd like to submit exhibits and play a voicemail transcript recorded on my client's hotel security camera audio." Carter stiffened. The judge nodded once. Nadine read the transcript. "I can make one call. I can have you evaluated. You want to see how fast your freedom disappears." A murmur rippled through the room. Nadine didn't stop. She submitted the printed email chain from Carter's printer tray. Behavioral summary, draft physician letter, facility list, notary log duplication. The judge's face went still. Carter's lawyer tried to object. The judge lifted a hand. "No," she said, cool. "This is directly relevant." Then Nadine played the real killer. The dinner recording. Carter's voice, casual and smug. "She doesn't know what she signs. It's adorable." Landon's voice. Handled. The judge looked directly at Carter. "Mr. Voss," she said, "it appears you believed your wife's trust was the same as incompetence. That belief is not a defense. It is evidence." Carter's jaw clenched. The judge continued. "This court does not reward manufactured narratives," she said, "and it does not tolerate coercion disguised as concern." Orders issued. Protections granted. Carter didn't look angry. He looked smaller. Not because he lost weight, because he lost certainty. Outside the courthouse, Evelyn was waiting. Not in a cardigan. In a simple suit. She looked taller somehow. She met my eyes. "Landon's attorney tried to call me," she said. I stared. "What did you say?" Evelyn's mouth twitched. "I told him I don't take calls anymore," she said. "I take statements." I exhaled a laugh. Evelyn glanced at my bare hand. "No ring," she noted. I shook my head. "It was never a marriage," I said. "It was a contract." Evelyn nodded once. "And now," she said, We write a new one. We didn't build a foundation with a big name and a press release. We built an office. Stamford, 4 rooms above a dentist. Plain carpet, big windows. A place women could walk into without feeling like they were asking permission to exist. The first woman who came in was named Marisol. She was shaking. She held a folder like it was her last breath. "My husband says I'm paranoid," she whispered. "He says I'm too emotional to understand the accounts." Evelyn leaned forward, calm as a blade. "Every document tells the truth," she said. "We're going to make it loud enough to be believed." Marisol's eyes filled. I didn't give her a speech. I gave her a pen, and a checklist, and a place to breathe. 3 months later, I drove a used Honda through Brooklyn traffic and felt freer than I ever had in the penthouse. Not because I loved the car, because I chose it. I met my mother at JFK myself. No driver, no performance. She got in the passenger seat and studied my face. "You look different," she said. "I am different," I replied. She hesitated, then asked, "Are you okay?" I thought about how hard okay can be when you've been surviving. Then I said, "I'm free." My mother's eyes filled. She didn't ask for details. She just squeezed my hand. That night, in my small apartment, I cooked dinner. It wasn't impressive. It was real. No marble counter where keys lined up like surrender. Just a kitchen and a life that belonged to me. Later, my phone buzzed. A message from Evelyn. "New woman tomorrow. Same pattern, different name. We keep going." I stared at the screen and felt something steady inside me. Not revenge, purpose. I remembered Carter's whisper in the ballroom. "Without my name, you don't exist." I smiled, because the funniest part was this. He was right about the name. Just not the way he thought. I didn't need his. My name is Serena Hale, and this is what happened when I was pushed beyond restraint. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this story.